The show is about to start. You have to show a look, have a look, or give a look. Faces, beautiful. No one ugly allowed. Are you ready? Here we go. Fashion is the art. Designers are the gods. Models play the part of angels in the dark. Which one of you would ever dare to go against? That beauty is a trade and everyone is paid. Fashionista. How do you look? Fashionista.
She's got it all. A symbol of excellence. She's got it all. She's got it all. All the elements, a symbol of excellence. Shining, she is so flawless, incredible illusionist. Miss Gay America. Miss Gay America. The best of the best. She is beauty, she is grace. Perfect in every way. This gay America.
Good evening out there in Facebook land. It is me, Miss Morgan, your Miss Gay Delaware America 2024. The Queen's so nice, they named her thrice. Thank you so much for joining in tonight. This is a special episode this evening. So if you're just joining us for the first time, I always let everyone know, please hit that share button, because the more people we bring in, the more people we have to fall in love with the America system, just as much as I love it dearly as well. Like I said, tonight is a very special edition. We had someone very special in our sisterhood and our America family pass away recently, Miss Norma Kristie, Norman Jones as well. And I asked a couple friends and family of Norma to join me this evening to pay tribute and homage to this absolute icon. So without further ado, we're just going to get in and bring in the guests that I have for this evening. First, I have a fabulous person that I love to getting to know this year, and I can't wait to get to know them even more in the future. Soon to be promoter, as well as just a fabulous, fierce queen, Miss Monica Mitchells. Hello, Angel. How are you?
Morgan.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having us on.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Up next, we have Miss Katia Lee Love, your former Miss Gay America 2000. Hello, Gord.
Everybody.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Of course.
And last but certainly not least, the Rolodex herself, Miss Dextasy, our former Miss Gay America 2022. Hello, Gorge.
Hey.
Well, thank you
She's
so
our
much.
savant.
She is. I give a buzz every time. I'm still waiting for my miscongeniality list, but that's a whole nother story for another day. So
The archives.
That's deep in the art. We'll dive in later on and we'll do that. But thank you so much for joining tonight. This is just a very special edition, because I think it's important to pay homage and respect to someone that paved the way for so many thousands and thousands of people and supported the community and was an icon. And so I appreciate your time and your knowledge and your love and respect for tonight's episode.
Of course.
So how about we do this, since I always like to, so for people that are joining for the first time, don't forget to hit that share button. But what I always like to do is if everyone could just go around and introduce yourself and maybe a little fun fact about yourself before we really get started. Monica, can I have you say hello first?
Yes, of course. I'm Monica Mitchells, soon to be co-owner of Miss Gay America, right here in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm coming to you from.
All right, Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, the South, honey.
Yes.
You're supposed to say from Atlanta, Georgia.
Like Charlie Brown.
Is that like the peaches, right? Are you a peach now?
Yes.
Yes.
I just need to hold it like that.
I've been watching a lot of Real Housewives, so I have it down set. So
I'd rather have the diamond from Beverly Hills, though. you know.
Okay. You know what? I'm just going to wear the America crown. That's where I'm going to hold.
There you go. There you go.
Someday. Dexisy, do you mind saying hi to everyone?
Hello, everybody. I'm Dexisy, or AKA Dex. I was Miss Gay America 2022. And a fun fact about me is that I have not had drag for the past 2 weekends, and I'm so excited.
Definitely fun for you. Which also means she's had a lot of trade.
Ding, ding.
Busy gal. You're networking. We're networking. I love that.
Networking.
And then Katia.
Well, everybody, I think most people know me, but my name's Katia Lee Love. I was Miss Gay America 2000. I have been the pageant's baggage for many years, working with every single one of the owners of every one of the different ownerships, which has been fantastic. It's been a thrill. I'm part of the executive board. And a fun fact about me, which most people actually also know, is I'm an incredibly obsessive Wonder Woman collector. Okay. I like long walks on the beach. I like
On short piers.
With your Clark Kent. I love that.
Is this like a Tinder profile? Is that what we're doing?
I'm a born giver. I like everyone to enjoy and benefit.
Oh, I thought you said porn giver. I was like,
no.
I didn't know what I signed up. Whoa.
I'm a PG-13 kind of gal.
There you go.
So, no, once again, I can't thank you enough for joining this evening. And so at any point, there's fun facts that you want to kind of put at us, please interrupt me and fill in. And also for the viewers out there tonight, if you'd like to make some comments or say a fun memory that you have of Norma, that would be great. We will definitely share that on the live. Or if there's any questions that you want to ask. And I'm sure the three of them are very open book and you can ask anything. I'm sure.
I gotta get out more. I've got a dirty mind.
Right. So I wanted to start off tonight by talking about our first memories of Norma. Now I'm more of the newer generation. I've only been around for a couple years. And going into my first year, I was a sponge. I was learning a lot about the system and how it functioned, and just even the base work of the bricks that are where I am at today. So getting to know Norma and who she was, I kind of knew it from her from a distance because I wasn't fully integrated in the system yet. Now, after 3 years of doing this, I've been able to see her on the national stage, see her behind the scenes, take fun pictures with her. And she's so friendly and approachable. And you can tell she authentically loves everybody and wants to just outreach and touch everybody as best as she can. So that's my big memory that I have of her. And actually, I do remember when they did the passing of the crown. I think it was last year. I was right next to her, so it was kind of fun because she starts the passing. So I got to have my moment with her, and she told me I had to move over because I was in the way, but that's all right.
That's not right.
But I had a conversation with her, which is all that matters. So anyway, I know Monica. You've known her for quite some time. Do you remember your first?
So basically, what you're saying, I'm the old one.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
No.
My first memory of her was not as a contestant, but as a viewer at the pageant in 1997 when it was in Charlotte at Uplands Auditorium.
Did she freeze?
Who, me? No. I'm not first.
Was that me or you guys or what?
It was you, but
I think it was
you. But that's all right.
So it was the year that Lauren Taylor won, and it was her 25th year having been crowned. And so there was this whole thing where all of the formers wore their crown. So it was amazing to see. And she had one made that was huge when she walked out there. But to me, that initial was the man behind the curtain, the person you don't approach, they come to you. So I was very shy and intimidated, honestly. But then as you were talking about bringing this together, I started thinking, if not for her, the four of us would not be able to sit here and do this.
This is true.
If not for her, well, I'll get into it later, but that's my initial meeting.
Being that big.
Yes.
Listen, and me watching the videos of her and doing my research and just making sure, I was seeing what everything she did, and she is a sharp girl. She
Oh,
has
yeah.
she can get on that mic too. She knows what she is doing, and she knows when to turn that music up. And a lot of people can learn a lot from her. So, and that big crown says it all too. Um, I mean, I don't want to say Katia next because then I'm going to say that like Katia's old too, but I'm not trying to say that. But
Well,
It is what it is. If we go in chronological order, both by crowning dates and birth dates, Ecstasy's a
washed
baby.
up has-beens.
Plus, some of us have to get off early and go to bed. But I kind of think of meeting Norma in a different kind of way, because I feel like there's, if you've known Norman, there's multiple times that you meet Norman because you meet different Normans. The first time I met Norman was very much the same as Monica, kind of an afar type thing. Would have been the first year that I went to Miss Texas, which would have been somewhere around the 94 year. Because at that time, Norman actually owned Miss Texas as well. And I first started my career in Texas and went 3 times to Miss Texas. So the first time I went, I was completely oblivious, did not understand how pageants worked. I was just there and soaking it all in and having a good time, as they say. And Norman was kind of, everybody would be like, oh, that's Norman, that's Norman. And he would be walking around and there's always somebody with him, basically him telling somebody what to do and they would be going and doing it. And so he seemed very elusive, as it were. And quite frankly, in my ignorance, I really didn't care who Norman was. I was about a contest. So I really didn't even take the time to associate that Norman owned Miss Texas and Miss America. In fact, at that time, I didn't really kind of understand how the pageant system worked. I had been taken to a contest as a preliminary by Miss Texas at that time. And then when I placed at that, they were like, oh, you go to Miss Texas. I was like, oh, okay, great. I go to Miss Texas. I see all these people. It was huge. It was like 60 something contestants at Miss Texas. And that was when I learned that if you won that, you went on to another one. So it was like, oh, okay, that now I see how it works. So I didn't really meet Norman, but I saw Norman. So you kind of meet a perception of a person at that point, which of course everybody says, oh, don't go talk to him. He doesn't want to talk to you. He doesn't want to, he's an asshole is what a lot of people would say. And he definitely had a very unapproachable air to him. So he was very frightening. Then the second time I actually physically talked to him, I had gone to Little Rock with a friend of mine, and I was a little further. It was like my second year in the pageant system, and they said, we want to introduce you to Norman. They knew Norman. I said, okay, great. So I was all petrified because I had seen him, the year before, whatever. And so we were all in drag trying to do the, promoting and schmoozing type thing. And she takes me up there to him and she goes, Norman, I want you to meet somebody. This is Katia. And he was at the door of the bar, which everybody can understands this if they knew Norman. He was taking everybody's money at the door. He was very intent on making sure everybody paid their entry fee to the door. And he was taking that. He looks over to me and he goes, so? And I was like, well, it's nice to meet you. And I turned around and I and in fact, it was so funny because he and I talked on the phone for about 3 hours a while back, and I was telling him about this, and we were laughing so hard at this. And then the last time that I say I met Norman was obviously the last prelim night of Miss America the year that I won. And he had said to me, Queen, I could watch you dance all night. And that was the first time I realized that there was somebody there besides this perception of the person that I had. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say meeting Norman for me was kind of like in 3 parts. Um, so
What I love is that I was gentle and said, well, I was getting ready for my building blocks and just, I wasn't really sure who Norma was. You're like, I didn't really care who Norma was at first, because I get it though, too, because it's like, you just don't, you're trying to piece together.
well, I came
Passion.
to the competition world of pageants straight from the dance world. And in dance
Yeah.
world, you didn't have graduating contests. You won a contest and then you would just go do another. They weren't connective to each other. So I had no clue of how that worked. And I didn't follow pageants because, I'm not gay. And so I don't have any care or concern about, Miss America, Miss Universe, or any of that other stuff the homosexuals like to watch. But so it was just a learning experience, and I was just, having a good time at that time. And so yeah, it was an interesting set of things. But we laughed a lot about that because he didn't even remember any of that. And he was like, I can't believe I did that. I said, oh, I can. I saw you do it to many people. But Norman was not a mean man. He was a man who had set ways about how he liked to do things. And I think he put up a front to him more so to not have to deal with a lot of people's bullshit, because he didn't really care for fakeness.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of what I saw after I met him that first time.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Ecstasy.
Well, mine's a little bit different. Sort of fast forward into maybe 2009, 2010. My first type of interaction or meeting Norman was sort of putting the pieces together as to who the heck this man is. When you're so new and so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to the world of drag, and then when I first started drag, that's when also my interest in Miss Gay America started. So it was I was double dipping when I started.
Mm-hmm.
I was not only learning drag, but Miss Gay America at the same time. So my first meeting of Norman, or sort of meeting him, it was sort of his impact that I met first. It was like everything I started building my drag around, or the foundations that I built my drag around, was all based around Miss Gay America. But as I was reading the handbook and learning how all of that worked, I already lived my life by those principles. So in a weird way, it was like Norman had already played a huge part of my upbringing. It's weird. Super, super strange. But, you kind of learn of what Miss Gay America was. And at that time, Norman really didn't participate in the reindeer games of Miss Gay America. I remember going to Miss Gay America my very first time as a spectator with the Louisiana America girls. I didn't get a ticket. I was there helping with props and dressing and all of that, and Norman wasn't there. And so I was always a very resourceful girl. I was always using stuff on Carrie Fairfield and looking up anything and everything I could get my hands on of Miss Gay America. So when I saw somebody, it was very much like Devil Wears Prada. I knew everything about you that I could get my hands on, but I just haven't met you yet. It was kind of creepy. Ask Charity. That's a 3-hour conversation. So from afar, I always had admired Norman of what he built, because it was just so lustrous to me. It was just so intriguing to me at what Miss Gay America was. Went to Miss Gay America that year. Cody won. Norman wasn't there. Kirby's year, Norman wasn't there. And so year after year, I was like, okay, I've met the majority of all of them except Norman. And so we fast forward to Blair's year. Blair wins Miss America. I had finally made the top 10. I was in the 5 that year. And then one of our sister competitors, Truly Fabu, was in the pageant that year. And I had known Truly for 100 years. And Truly Fabu and me were judging a pageant in Little Rock called, I believe it was called American National Star. And this promoter both had us there. It was me, Truly, and Alina Maletti was a judge. John Martin Beebe was a judge. And so I had gotten asked to judge this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this panel of judges, why am I on this panel? So we get to Little Rock, and So we get to Little Rock and I'm judging this pageant, and Truly says, "Hey, have you ever met Norman?" Now, mind you, I wanted to kind of be like one of the cool kids on the block and go, "Yeah, I've met Norman," because, Truly's a top 5 sister. How could I have not met Norman? Just the norm. And so Truly goes, "You've never met Norman, have you?" I said, "No, I haven't." So Truly Fabu drags me to the front of Trinity nightclub, which we all know used to be Backstreet, but it was Trinity then. And so she pulls me to the front of the office where everybody's had a million conversations with Norman. And she pops her head in, and he's at his far desk in the corner counting his money, cigarettes going. She goes, "Hey, gal." And he goes, and he takes his glasses and he goes, "What are you doing here?" Like that. He says that to Truly, and then Truly goes on this spiel of, "Well, I'm judging a pageant that's at your bar," and very normal. He goes, "Oh, another pageant at my bar," and and Truly was like, "I want you to meet somebody," and here I am like a little dog with my tail between my legs, and I'm like, "Oh my God!" It's like Dorothy in front of the Wizard of Oz. It's like, "Oh my God." I want to pee on myself. I want to crap on myself.
Probably did.
I was right. I said, "Hey, I'm Dextasy. I've always admired your pageant. I'm so excited to finally meet you." And he looks at me with the same glasses that he did with Truly, and he goes, "Well, I know who you are, Queen."
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm like, "Whoa!" And he goes, and he goes, "I know who you are, Queen, and congrats on third runner-up last month." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
So she flipped the script on you.
He got me. And so that's how we met. It was like I've always known about Norman, but when you're so young and new to this, you don't expect something or somebody at that caliber to know who you are. You haven't made a splash. Come on.
Hmm.
And so that was my first time meeting Norman. And then I got a new day job within that month of this pageant. And this is where it was like, okay, he's going to remember me for a while. So fast forward, Blair wins. I judge this pageant. And then a month later, I get a new day job. My life's in shambles. And then Norman releases on Facebook that he has released his book called My Life, My Pageant, My Crown.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, I'm such a Miss Gay America cheerleader. I have got to get my hands on that book. I know that they're going to be selling it at that bar. If I know Norman, he's always about his money. Norman is a businessman through and through. And I said, if he released on Facebook that those books are being sold, they're going to be at that bar. You ain't going to have to just go online. So I called the bar and I said, "Hey, are they going to be selling Norman's book at the bar?" "Oh, yeah, he has a good bit here. He's willing to sell them." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I know what my Saturday plans are," like an idiot. And so I call my friend girl. We get in the car. We make the 3-hour drive to Little Rock, and I'm at the bar. And this is he was selling the book on the Discovery side. So this is the big bar. This is the theater bar. And so I get there and I'm like, okay, I'm the world's biggest loser when it comes to Miss Gay America memorabilia. And I said, I'm going to be the first person in line. There's not going to be anybody else there for a book signing or a release. And so I pull up and there's one person talking to Norman as I'm the second person in line. We were the only two. And as fate would have it, it's Ron Standridge, the drag historian. And so that's where I met him. And then here I am with my 20 or 30 bucks. I'm like, "Hey, I'm here to buy a book. I was just here a month ago." And Norman goes, "Oh, you again. Here we go. Fangirl." So Norman had, his first impressions, of us, each other. I think he kind of knew I was kind of like the class nerd that, like, what's that girl from Romeo and Michelle, Toby, that wanted everybody's picture and to sign her yearbook. And so I think Norman always thought of me as the Toby of Miss Gay America. That was our first interactions. And then, Norman would just kind of come and check on people if he could when he was capable at Miss America every year. And again, like Katia said, you meet Norman in layers. You meet different facets of Norman. And one of my most incredible moments with Norman was when I won, he presented me with my scepter. And so, you know, just in all the momentum and everything, it's like, wow, he's celebrating 50 years. Here he is presenting me with the scepter. That was just kind of an out of body experience. And then my year as Miss Gay America, I saw Norman a lot. You know, Little Rock was always in my line of fire. I had to go through Little Rock to get anywhere, really. And I remember being at Miss Arkansas the year I reigned, and it too was its 50-year anniversary, which Norman was celebrating there. And he was like, I'm not going to wear an Arkansas crown for my 50th. I'm going to wear my revamped Miss America crown, which was just a version of the Tiara Enterprises that he had a few years ago.
Mhm.
So he puts it on and he goes, pin it on me, Queen. And so we're at that first changing station in the dressing room at Discovery. And I'm one of those that I never use those stupid J pins. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was just old school bobby pin. And I'm trying to pin it in. And Norman's looking at me in the mirror and he looked at me and he goes, well, to fight for so long and win that damn thing, you sure don't know how to pin one on. And that was our relationship, and that's how he was always very tough love, like, you know, gave me hell, and that was kind of my interactions and my meeting of Norman. I knew he always knew that I loved his contest through and through, and so yeah, that's my many meetings of
No.
Norma Kristie.
I love that. Well, and when I was watching little clips of Norman doing, well, it would be Norma Kristie at the time, like doing proctoring and bantering on the mic with another proctor, and sharp, and had like that is old school sharp back too, where I was like, I need to start taking some of these notes because they're good, quick comebacks too. So, but she's been doing it for a little while, right? So, why don't we do this? Let's, for those who are joining in or just started joining, please hit that share button. The more people we bring in, the more people we have fall in love with the America system, and give homage to Miss Norma Kristie, Norman Jones. Why don't I have a little video clip of the 25th anniversary, the silver year, when Norman got an award for their work that they do. And I think it's very impactful because not only do we hear a little bit about the impact that Norman did, but we also hear from Norman as well. So I think that would be nice to do. It's like a 2-minute clip. All right, so we'll throw that on. I gotta find it first. Here we go.
Congratulations, Norma. You have managed so many steps in life that so many are unwilling to take. You've changed lives and given opportunities for growth to many entertainers. Estimating at approximately 60 entertainers times 25 years of pageant, and then on top of that, add approximately 40 pageants times 20 state pageants, and then add the local pageants for 25 years, you would realize an estimation of 23,000 entertainers that you have given an opportunity for national competition and exposure.
Under our direction, the official Miss Gay America pageant has been the leader in pageants for female impersonators in this country. The history of this pageant, as with all others, has not been without its trials and tribulations. But it's so common in our system that the sisterhood has managed to keep us together and focus our attention on our positive efforts and accomplishments. This is the reason for our longevity.
So I was very, like, I think the clip that really got me was the 23,000 people. And it actually makes perfect sense. and more to come down the years to come too, the amount of people that get a moment to be their authentic self, a part of the system. So it's really cool. You don't have to be a winner to be a part of it either.
I was
No.
just thinking about this the other day. For those that are younger, the 70s, 80s, and actually the early 90s, gay bars were very underground. They didn't really have signage outside. They didn't, it was almost like a speakeasy. You had to know where they were. You had to know and to think that a pageant was ran and had as many contestants as it did for decades prior to social media, it's amazing to know that that network of individuals by word of mouth was spreading about something this large, and it kept growing. It's amazing to me to know that it was that much on fire back then, that because you could go to a gay bar or like a gay bookstore there to have a little paper magazine that might tell you what the shows were and but that was the only way we knew stuff. I mean, we didn't have email, we didn't have, and so to know that the idea of Miss Gay America, and especially what Norma Kristie put into effect, has spun so many things that we don't realize. I mean, I guarantee without Miss Gay America, there would be no RuPaul's Drag Race. These are things that, because drag became more mainstream and more acceptable, all started back, then. And I don't know that a lot of people realize the impact that this pageant, and especially what she did for this pageant, has made on the drag community and the gay community in a whole,
Thank you. Yeah, and like I said, and the legacy is going to continue, and we'll continue to talk about her and the impact that she did. And I think that, Monica, you said it perfectly. Yes, it's not necessarily my generation, but I've been a part of, like, even in the late 90s to that, like, coming out, like there wasn't a million places to go either, or it was just starting to come, and people coming out of the closet and things were very hard to still do. And so just even seeing pictures and video, like I've only seen clips and videos from here and there because there wasn't, obviously it's VHS or however else they're storing the videos, but it sounds like there's a lot of people there supporting the system and supporting Norma and the vision of what those whole thing's about. So it's a testament to what he has done throughout these years, and being consistent with who he is, whether it be the businessman, whether it being the supporter, or that hard ass that holds you accountable to be yourself, to make it where we're at today, right? So, and it makes sense, because I agree that back then, even farther back then, it was very taboo. It was very hard. It was very hard to break in the scene and get.
Well, it was illegal. It was illegal. When I first started doing drag, one of the first things people told me is make sure you always have one article of male attire on if you're going to be driving in drag, because your ID has to match
what
you're supposed to present. So
I feel like you wouldn't even mess with Norma, because I feel like Norma would just take you, like, tell you who you are. So, which is great, because you need that strong figure to stand there.
I started drag during the covered wagon days, so
Well, and I think also, I think the uniqueness of Norman's life experience, having been in the military, taught him the importance of structure. And that's one of the things that he understood about building this pageant system, was he built it around a sense of structure. And he tried to keep it as somewhat simple as possible in how it operated, so that it can maintain its structure. And that's the thing that has transpired, or has transcended over all of these different generations. Smaller parts and aspects change, but the main core structure always stays the same. And that's kind of one of the things that I think has helped maintain that. And I think that's one of the reasons that I know that he and I had a good relationship, was because I came from a military family. So it was very easy for me to understand how his system and thought process worked in regard to that system. And I think that's also what helped him be successful in those earlier years. because, you know, so much of his life outside of a bar or drag revolved around executing your existence in a demographic of people that weren't accepting. So he learned how to kind of marry the two and work past those insecurities that I think are, you know, are some of our, well, I can't even say that anymore because it seems like those insecurities in the general society seem to be rearing their heads again.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not exactly what they were back then. They may be different, but they're back again. And so that's something that I think, you know, because he, like you, Monica said, you know, he was performing when things were illegal, when, you know, the famous story, which is, I believe, detailed in his book. I was afraid to read the book, so I never read the book, because when he said the book was coming out, I knew some of the people that were getting attacked, and I didn't want to read it if I was one of them. But you know, the stories of him and Miss America having to go through protesters and Klansmen and various different things, and throughout the history of the pageant, we've always had to face that. And that was one of the beautiful things about Norman, was even though you felt like maybe he was very stern and mean at times, you always did feel protected and safe with him. Because you knew that he was going to be at your back, even if he didn't like you. He was going to be at your back if you needed to have that support. So.
And you know, you brought up something that I did read about today, actually, where about the I guess it'd be the Ku Klux Klan during that time, and how that was such a big moment of trying to trailblaze through to continue on the legacy. And like we even talk about it now, like in Little Rock, like the Good Old Boys, and is it the Good Old Boys? I don't want to say the wrong groups, but
Proud
the people
Boys.
what is it?
Proud
Boys.
Boys.
Thank you. But it's just scary. It's a whole scary situation. And I think, Katia, like you say it best, like I think when I hear about the stories about Norman and watching the things that are going on, it's like reassuring to have that confident person or someone that's strong enough to take a stand on the top of that hill and say, come up here, you're going to be just fine. And so I hope that that's a legacy that everybody takes with them moving forward, because now is the time, especially because of the temperature of the water in the climate today, we'll say, but it's also to continue now moving forward and keeping that voice going. So has anyone seen Norma Kristie perform? Because I've never. So I just, like, what is that like?
I don't recall ever getting to see her perform. I obviously saw her in Face a few times, but I never saw her perform. I did hear tell a story of a recorder, though.
Well, have no fear. I did a little digging. I have a little clip of Norma Kristie perform. Can I play that for you? And
Absolutely.
I got inspired. I think I want to make a gown out of her costume that she's wearing, but don't tell anybody. Okay, we're keeping this amongst us. Okay. So here, let's pay homage to Miss Norma Kristie. Okay, there we are.
They want more.
A wrong way to do it, a right way to screw it up. Nobody does it like me. I've got a big loud mouth. I'm always talking much too free. If you go for tax and manners, better stay away from me. If there's a wrong way to keep it cool, a right way to be a fool. Nobody does it like me. I hear a love song, a ballad. I toss like a salad. Nobody tosses like me. And when my evenings get tougher, I just take to buffering and drink a hot cup of tea. Last night I met an old acquaintance at a fancy corner pub. He said, come on, let's have some supper. So he used my credit card. If there's a wrong way to take a guy, the worst way to make a guy. Nobody does it like me. If there's a wrong bell, I ring it. A wrong note, I sing it. Nobody does it like me. If there's a problem, I duck it. I don't solve it, I just muck it up. Nobody does it like me. And so I try to be
what I love about that song, it's kind of like her essence, you know. I feel like she's the first Miss Gay America, and nobody does it like her, right? Because she started the trailblazer.
Absolutely. You gotta, if you don't have a good French dress, you're just not doing drag.
Listen, don't tell anybody, but I thought you left for a minute. I thought I scared you because I was going to put you to work
No,
to make
it just
me
for
count.
some reason it kicked me out. I guess maybe I don't know.
No, it was fine. No, you were totally fine. It was just funny because I was like, "Oh, did I scare her away?" Because she's gonna be
I had enough.
working her fingers off. So, but yeah, it's just cool to see the way things. I don't want to sound like this, but back then, and how things are definitely evolving, and with how stages are now different, and you know like things that you can do. But it's just cool to see that's. You're just doing it, and that's what she did. She did it. So
Well, you know, in some ways, it is great to go back and look at those because definitely performing has completely changed over the years. But there was something very endearing about having to show up with your cassette tape, and you had two 4x8 foam core backdrop pieces that had 2 or 3 people behind there having to slide it apart, and you know, Christmas tree lights strung around with someone backstage having to plug it in and out to make it flash. And it was so low budget and B movie to it, but still it was magical, and it was all about the environment. And I think as performing has progressed, in many cases, I feel like it has detached from its audiences, because before it was, because everything was underground, it was about making connections with people. And now it's so centered upon how you look, what you wear, and that you kind of check mark the typical standard required dance moves, themes, whatever it is. There's like a formula now that I don't think, well, it was obviously created back then. So there was something very endearing to that. And of course, you know, I think the beautiful thing about those videos is what you're remembering is not really necessarily the quality of what was being done, but the memory of how it made you feel.
Yeah.
I love that. So is there other things that you would like to talk about? Any memories that you'd like to talk about Norma? This is the part where if your kids, you put them to bed and then we chat. No, I'm just kidding.
Dick, you've been quiet.
Okay. So one of my stories about Norman is, you know, obviously we had talked about earlier how we met Norman and the different times of life that we met Norman. But I want to sort of switch gears to one of the like, did that really just happen moments? So we're going to rewind it back to the year that Andorra won. We were in St. Louis. I think it was called the Ferrara Theater, wherever we were, final night. And it was this most humongous dressing space. I think they could park airplanes in there. It was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And so there's a million things happening. It was a huge year. There was a billion contestants. The theater was beautiful. And there was a slew of formers there, and Norman made his way there. And so the top 10 is done. We're all done. And it's that break between talent's over and crowning. So it's that last bit of entertainers. And ironically, me and Andorra find ourselves in one complete little area of a hallway, just kind of like decompressing. Somebody's life's about to change. We all have gone through that moment if you've been in the top 10 of, well, it could be me, this one, or the other 8. So you're kind of going through this weird emotions. And me and Andorra are just back there. And me and Andorra, we've always known each other, but we didn't know each other like well then. But I knew that she was that bitch that night. I was like, okay, it's going to be her, Desi Loveblake. I had a great time, but let's be real here. So me and Andorra are like sitting on these boxes, and then Chloe Jacobs, God rest her soul, is also joining us, and just kind of like, well, the week's over, thank God. You know, we're all just exhausted and hungry and broke. And Norman comes through there too. And he like looks at all three of us on these boxes sitting down like we're pathetic. And he looks at us and he goes, I'll never understand queens like y'all. Y'all spent all this money to sit down on these beautiful dresses. You're gonna rent. He said, rent. You're gonna rent your good gowns. Get up. And so it was almost like the grandparent or the parent telling you, don't you dare go outside in your Sunday school clothes or your church clothes because you're going to ruin them. And he was like, I can't believe y'all are sitting down on these beaded dresses. And me and Andorra and Chloe, we didn't say anything in the moment because how can you?
Right.
But like when Norman scuttled off, Andorra, me, and Chloe just said, well, fuck. I mean, I guess we better get up then. It was kind of like we were in trouble by the principal.
So wait, I have a question. What does it look like when Norman scuttles? What does that look like?
I don't know. It's just kind of shuffled, like very, kind of talking with his shoulders, very frustrated. But then on the other hand, my last interaction with Norman was when Chloe passed away. We had a benefit for her 2 or 3 weeks after Chloe died, and Norman hadn't been able to go to his bar. He was not able-bodied to participate and do anything due to his health. But he got it all together, and he came to Chloe's benefit show. And, I got to see him and hug his neck. And the one thing that he said to me is, just make sure that people love my pageant for the right reasons. I really didn't understand what it meant, but as it kind of, as it sat in after all these weeks, I was like, love his pageant for the right reasons. And it kind of goes back to what Monica and Katia had already said about back then when drag was so taboo and they were having to hide, and it was word of mouth and very underground and very punk rock. And, Katia saying about the structure and the discipline and how critical every rule played an integral part. Because when you open those rules, it is sometimes overwhelming. But when you sit there and think about it, it's truly common sense and structure, not only in the pageant, but it really does help you have a fantastic foundation in life itself. Norman's rules and the structure that he created was not just for Miss America. It was almost like a boot camp or a college of sorts for all of us people, that even if you didn't win, even if you weren't successful, there were things that you took from Miss America every single time you went that you took back to your personal life, into your careers, into your homes. And that's what I think Norman was trying to say, was think of the blueprints that he left and make sure people know and love that. And it makes sense. And honestly, I think it will stand the test of time, that no matter how many years have gone by or will go by, the things that Norman put into play will always be the blueprint of pageantry and professionalism in drag.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because there's people, like you said, that have been on reality TV shows that when you say that name, Norma Kristie, they know who she is. They know what she did. They know the impact. And yeah, that's old Norma Lou to me.
Well, what's really cool listening to the three of you talk, but 3 different experiences with Norman and 3 different vantage points, but you're all saying the same thing, which is that blueprint of what he's created, which is kind of cool to hear multiple times in different ways, because that's what he wanted. So,
well, I going off of what Dexasy just said, I think the word legacy gets thrown around a lot, but it is a legacy. And Dex and I were both at the funeral, and what really touched me was the respect of the line of succession that was there. Larry and Terry were there. Michael was there, and I was there. So we were showing our respect to Norman that he gave us this ability to continue what he started. And it, regardless of what people personally might think of someone, you have to respect them for their work and their dedication and what they have left for the rest of us to continue on. So that's my vantage point.
Mhm.
And I loved to know that you can go to the website, look at the handbook, everybody can start on the same page.
Mhm. I was
Everybody's
gonna
qualified for the job, depending on how you're going to do the job, but you have the blueprint right there for the
yeah,
qualification.
I was gonna ask, because I know Katia started off by saying that, it's kind of been the same blueprint as the handbook. Is there things that you're seeing still to this day, or still that are like, what are things that we're seeing today that are still hold true back in 1973 when it started?
Well, I mean, obviously, I wasn't there in 1973.
Well,
I appreciate that question so very much. Thank you. And good night.
well, I brought you up as an example of what you were saying, but
Well,
yeah.
I think, the things that have changed, obviously, our scoring has changed. But the main core of how the pageant operated in what it required of its contestants to do has been the same. How we execute gown today, while different, still follows the same format. It's just styles and trends have changed.
Mhm.
Same thing with building their talent. How you operate as Miss America, while it has been fine-tuned, and actually some things have been, let go of, for the most part, it has stayed exactly the same. And it's like Dexter said, it follows the blueprint of really making you recognize common sense.
Mhm.
And that's the things about Miss America that have changed or have stayed the same. It's
Mhm.
the little minutia things, whether we change how we do or what we do for a category, excuse me, I got tongue-tied, for a category might change, but how we operate and how we go about it stays the same. And so it's not like we're fundamentally changing how the system operates. We just adapt it to fit the times,
Mhm.
is how
So
it works.
So I do have to ask, and I know what excellence is. I know excellence is about, everything that encompasses the American system, and everyone, it's different meanings to everyone. But is that something do we know if that's something that started at the very beginning days of the trailblazing with Norma Kristie, or is that something that integrated years later?
As long as I have been in the system, I remember Symbol of Excellence
Me too.
being there. So I don't know exactly when it first started. But as far as I remember, it has always been there. Now, whether it was necessarily branded, I don't know.
Mhm.
But I remember that phrase being around ever since my first time in 93, 94-ish.
Okay.
So I don't know when exactly that started. That might be a good
Sure.
Ron Sandrich thing.
Yeah, I was curious if it's something that Norman started, or if that was something that kind of.
And for what it's worth, there's a lot of pageants, and I'm not naming names, but every once in a while you may be at another pageant and in the audience or whatever, and you hear our symbol of excellence. Now, mind you, the Miss Gay America organization hasn't like trademarked it or put ownership on the symbol of excellence words, but it speaks for itself, I think, when people start adapting
Oh,
that
agreed.
that terminology. Show some love to our symbol of excellence. I'm going, oh, is such and such here? I didn't know she was entertaining. And it's like, oh, I'm not let down by any means, but it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, flipping
I
tables.
actually feel great pride with that.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
it shows that it's created something that people wish to emulate. And, I certainly do hope and feel that people in other systems view their title holders as symbols of excellence. But I do feel the same thing. I remember the first time I heard it outside of the confines of an American pageant, I thought, what? But no, I've actually grown to be very fond of the fact that
Yes, me too.
that is carried on. So it doesn't become unusual for me anyway, at least. But
Sure.
I was going to share a couple of my funny memories.
Yes, please do.
One funny one was just kind of a testament of how Norman's and I's relationship after winning progressed. And I think one of the pivotal times of when we really came to understand each other, because I do feel that, you know, when you reign as Miss America when you did under Norman, your relationship grew throughout the year because you really went through a period of developing trust with each other. And, you know, when I won the system or won the pageant, I had only been in the system for like just a few years and had only been to Miss America 3 times. So Norman's and my interaction were very limited. So we really had the growing pains, as it were, to start. But I remember right after I won Miss America, there was a bump between the two of us. And I had gone home to Oklahoma. I lived in Tulsa at the time. And I was asked to perform at Miss Oklahoma US of A, which was one of my home bars that I performed at every week. And they had sponsored me heavily. And they owned US of A pageants. And all throughout my career, because I grew up doing drag in Texas, even though it was an America state, it was also a big US of A state. So my whole drag aesthetic had grown up performing and living by America's structure, but liking the US of A style of performance. So it's kind of in this weird amalgam situation. So I went and performed at Miss Oklahoma US of A, and Jerry contacted Norman. And he told Norman, he said, I just wanted to let you know your Miss America is absolutely wonderful. She did a fantastic job. Well, that made Norman angry because he didn't think I should be performing at a US of A event. And so he contacted me rather heated and told me that absolutely under no circumstance was I to perform at any event unless he gave me permission to do so. And if I didn't do that, he would take the crown away. And in my impetuous youth, I tended to be a lot more hot-headed than I am now, thanks to my mother's genetics. And so I rather bluntly explained to him in no uncertain terms about how I had performed circles around Miss US of A at that time. I may not look as good as her, may not be as, you know, bougie as her, but I performed circles around her. And the fact that Jerry had contacted him and told him that I did a good job, and the fact that this was a bar that had supported me and had America pageants in their bar as well, I was not going to turn my back on the people that got me where I was. And if there was a problem with that, I would be happy to send him the crown back. And we both kind of stopped for a second. And he said, no, it's fine. And after that, we never had another crossword with each other ever. And at the time, I was so mad about it. But I think it was in that moment, he realized that I was not going to do anything that was going to degrade the system, and that I took it very seriously. And from there, our relationship just blossomed. So much so to the point that when I gave up Miss America, he and I were on quite joking terms, because over the years, well, I'll do that later, but was it review show night? It was one of the before final night, and we had been joking, and he said something, and so I was going to get him. I was just going to get him right together. You know, back then we didn't have the Photoshops like we do now, so I went and I found a picture of like a Sears lingerie model, you know, just with her boobs hanging out and her hips and in a lacy teddy. And I had cut out her picture, her drag picture, and I had taped it onto the body of this picture. And I had taped it in the middle of the dressing room mirror. So when he walked in that night, he's talking to everybody, and he turns around and he sees this picture, and he stands there and kind of doing that thing that Dextasy was saying, where you kind of looked under this little glasses and looked at this thing, and he's standing there and his head's shaking slightly, and he goes, "Who did this?" And I said, just grinning ear to ear, I was like, I did. And he stopped and he smiled really big, which was great. I used to love it when he smiled. Rare, but I loved it when he did. And he said, I look good.
Oh,
And, I went on then to work with him as pageant liaison for the many years. And it always made me feel amazingly proud that, there were times when he would ask me my opinion on things, on what I thought we should do about something or how we should do something. Didn't always take that, to heart, but at least he asked. But the other thing that really made me very proud and honored to work with him and actually build the level of respect that I have for him was the fact that even if he felt you were 100% wrong and had no intention of doing what you thought was right, he at least let you talk to him about it. And he would take it in, and sometimes he would obviously compromise, or he would let things go and he would say, okay, well, we're going to do that, but when it's wrong, I'm going to tell you, I told you so. And that made me feel really good, because I felt like with Norman, if you could earn his respect, you've really done something fantastic.
mm,
And that's one thing that I will always say about Norman is many people I have met and worked with in this industry, and all have been fabulous at some level or another, and all of which, for the most part, I have enjoyed working with or being around. He is one of the ones that I truly, to the core, respected,
mm,
both for what he did and for allowing somebody to see a side of him that was contrary to the brick wall that he had put up. And it made me feel good as he got older and away from the ownership of Miss America, that in many ways you did get to see a softer side of Norman. And that made me very happy.
yeah.
And the last time that I had an interaction with Norman was actually at Miss America last year. And it was rather jarring for me, because Norman had always been this kind of indestructible pillar for me. And when he came in the door, he was very frail, had, mobility issues, which he and I had talked about on the phone. We sat and we talked about, all our aches and pains, and, and going through everything that we were having to go through, all of that. And when I saw him like that, it took me back to when my father was dying from pancreatic cancer and he was in home hospice. And just remembering coming to a point where the person I was seeing was not really the person that I remembered in my mind.
Mm,
And it took my breath away. And I was concerned at that time that might be the last time I saw him.
mm,
And of course, it truly came to pass. And I was very thankful that he and I got to spend that time, the time that we did. I got to sit with him quite a bit that night and not pay attention to the pageant, just kind of watch some things with him and talk with him a little bit. And I was very grateful for that, because I was able to sit down with somebody that I respected and cared about, just in kind of a soft, quiet way.
mhm.
And so, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
thank you. Thank you for sharing that too, because I think it's important too. And that's why I so much, I mean, for many reasons, but wanting to do an episode like this to give respect to Norman, because I feel like, I mean, for me personally, I've seen Norman the past 3 years, not Norman 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever. So, and there is a voice behind that just that person, right? And that's why I always do these podcasts, because it's not just the face on the stage, it's the person within and everything else you got going on. And I think it's important that, you know, everyone that falls in love, continues to fall in love with the America system, has an understanding of where it started, who started it, and who they are as a person, not just that last glimpse of somebody. So I appreciate everyone sharing the goods, the bads, and stuff. So
Absolutely.
thank
And
you.
that's the beautiful thing of it is, you know, we see so many, those of us that stay in the system a long time, you will see pieces of Norman everywhere. And that's a beautiful thing. And one of the things that I've always wanted to make sure is no matter how the pageant changes, that we still see, if I can, those pieces of Norman that we remember. So it's still recognizably him there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Dexter, Monica, is there anything else that you want to share about Norman?
I think for anybody really watching that never had the opportunity to meet Norman, I wholeheartedly encourage you to come to Miss America, go to prelims, get a good understanding of what this pageant is. You know, I know everybody can't necessarily come to Miss America every year and enjoy the contest in person, but make sure that you're going out and supporting local drag, supporting your local gay bars, drinking liquor at the bars, because, you know, that's what Norman was. He was a businessman, he was structured, he was artistic. And when you go to a Miss America prelim and you love it and you feel that excitement, just know that those chill bumps and that magic that you feel at a Miss America sanctioned event, again, whether it's a city prelim or a workshop being held by a state title holder in just a very unique, weird spin-off way, that's just kind of a branch off of the tree of Norman.
Yeah.
And there's just so many things that we could sit here all night and talk about, but watching Miss America, making sure that you're, you know, there's so much access now to what Miss Gay America has been through all these years. You know, there's lots of vintage tapes and things on online and YouTube, and just make sure that you're going to watch it and understanding the progression of this pageant and just really staying true and really honoring the life and the legacy that somebody said. And that's, again, that's the reason that we're all here taking up hours of our night, because we were so passionate about this thing that this incredible man created.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I just think as a person, will be a steward of the pageant, because, you know, I'm not going to be like Norman and own it for 30 years. No. But, you know, the time that I do own it, the time that I do own it, regardless of what you see on the stage, the core of the pageant is him. The core of everything that happens, you know, from the fact that America is known to start on time, you know, the regiment, the structure is him. The categories might change, the look of gowns might change, but it all goes, roads all leads back to one. And so I think that when people continue to talk about legacy, it's like the legacy continues. It might change a little bit, but that one common thread will always be there.
Well, thank you. Thank you all very much for joining this evening. There was tons of people commenting, just sending love and love and love. No real questions, but there were so many people tuning in and out. I've been watching the whole time. So, you know, obviously, Norman was a huge impact, and I'm sure people will be watching these videos and making comments and sharing and sending a ton of love. Thank you for sharing. Usually what I do is at the end of an episode, I usually ask the guests to say what their meaning of excellence is. And it's been going on for a couple of years now that I've been doing it. But I think tonight I want to do something a little bit different. Is I'm going to have everyone go around and just say their goodbyes. And then what I want to do is I want to replay the original video that I just played starting off this episode, because I don't want this episode to be a closed book. I want it to be another opening for the next chapter. Okay. So if Monica, why don't I just start with you, and we'll just go and we'll just say our goodbyes, and then once again, thank you again so much for tuning in tonight, the viewers as well as you all coming on tonight for the live to share a little bit piece and a glimpse into Norman Jones, aka Norma Kristie's life. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Morgan, for doing this. You are an extension of Norman for doing this and continuing to talk about the American system. So thank you. And I know you give up your title, what, this weekend?
Yeah, it's on Saturday. It's the whole weekend though. It's Saturday and Sunday is Miss and then the Femme
All right.
in
Oh, I
Delaware.
thought you were like turning into one of those birthday month people where it's like, oh, this is my give up month.
It's like you know me so well.
I was about to read you.
But again, thank you, Morgan, for having us on to do this.
Thank you. Thank you again, Monica. I'm going to say goodbye to you,
Bye,
Monica. Thank you again for joining.
Bye, y'all.
Ecstasy.
Well, thank you again, Morgan, for having us. And like Monica said, I was thinking the same thing, is that ironically, this was a podcast to honor Norman's life. And Norman was always looking for the next thing to make his brand different, or to make the Miss Gay America organization that much more progressive, or 10 steps ahead. And I really think he would have loved what you're doing. There's not another girl, I think, that sort of does what you're doing in the America system. So I definitely think it's very much Miss America oriented. So again, thank you for keeping this alive and making sure that people have Miss Gay America resources at their fingertips and in such a new school approach. And can't wait to be a guest whenever that'll be again.
You know, we have a whole nother year to come and
Oh,
years to
Jesus.
come. Thank you again, Ecstasy, so much. Have a
Bye,
great
y'all.
night.
Bye.
Last but
Oh, thank
definitely
God they're
not least.
gone. Oh, I thought we'd never be rid of them.
Yes, it's just us now, darling.
Well,
thank-
again, I mean, obviously, 1,000 thank yous for what you're doing, not only for the system, but thank you for letting us talk about our memories of Miss Gay America and of Norman, and just everything that you allow us to do with this, because part of that sisterhood is just the personal relationships. And, you know, it's easy to talk about what makes a good category gown, like a gown category or a talent category. What makes this? What are judges looking for? But really, when we talk about America, we always talk about the family experience. And, you know, we grow such wonderful and distinct bonds in this system that I think is really something that is somewhat unique. I mean, every system, obviously, you have sisterhoods and certain people that enjoy each other, but really, honestly, the participants in Miss America truly behave like a unit and as a family. And it is an experience that you're buying into, not just a pageant. And so when we are able to tell our stories and our history, you know, because at some point, none of us are going to be here anymore, and it'll be somebody else that's having these stories. So it's good to have this, that people can understand where we've come from, where we're going, maybe the viewpoints of why people think the way they do. And I appreciate that quite a bit.
Thank you.
And I thank you for asking me to be here to talk about Norman, because he and I did have very, I feel, good relationship, even though it wasn't necessarily always 100% throughout the years talking with each other. I do feel we had a good simpatico, and I appreciated being able to talk about him.
Well, you were
And
amazing.
thank you so much again for all of that, and even for making me sit for an hour listening to those two go on and on. No, I just play. I like to act movie, but I do enjoy it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you again.
Of course.
I can't wait to see you soon. Thank you
Take
so
care.
much for your time.
Bye.
What a very special evening. I hope you all were able to get a little piece from this night. Once again, I'm going to bid you adieu, and I'm going to give homage one more time to Norman Jones, aka Miss Norma Kristie.